Staff Senate.
And we've sent out our members' names to the chair of the Joint Committee, Marsha Reifman, who should be reporting those on to you. So you should be getting them through her. We know some of our minutes got a little behind. Our secretary was horribly injured a little while ago, and so she's doing all right now, but we have a little catching up to do with our minutes, but you will be getting them all. We're getting it all cleaned up at right now, and should have that you all up to date on the minutes very shortly. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we're having elections for the Staff Senate. We have at our first meeting of the fall semester. We'll have elections, so we'll let you know by 11 o'clock tomorrow. The suspense will be over, and we will have new officers for the Staff Senate and new folks to come in and speak with you every month. We had a great meeting with Becca from HR, and she came in and talked to us, and we've had a number since over a year ago when we brought a letter to Dr. Guzman about some of our concerns that grew into longer term thoughts about how some things should be addressed within HR. And I think it was a very productive meeting, and I think it's very helpful. Some of the issues, what we see what part of our role is not to intervene in HR issues, but to rather collect people's thoughts and organize them so that, as she says, she doesn't get nibbled to death by ducks, but that rather we can organize all of it into bigger classifications of things that need to be addressed. And I think that's a great role. We've been looking a lot at, over the last year and a half, there was a time a couple of years ago when people thought of the Staff Senate as a gripe session, and we've been trying very hard to move on towards a productive, constructive part of shared governance and really helping to organize and create better pathways forward to the college. And I think we're succeeding to a large degree at this point. I would say we also, our constitutional committee has reviewed, and we'll be reviewing that in the whole Staff Senate tomorrow, the suggestions that came from the board. And I think everyone was very pleased with the suggestions that you came forward with. The one thing I would say, if the faculty are now asking to have a member on the board, if you guys if you guys reconsider that might be an option, we'd like to be listed right up there as people who are interested in potentially having a member on the board as well. I would say the mood on campus among the staff is optimistic but anxious. I mean, there's still a lot of concerns, and there's, of course, rumors flying everywhere, and we're doing our best to control rumor mills going on out there. But we're very excited. We did have our first meeting this semester of the Shared Governance Council, and we're very excited to move forward and make a lot of progress. I think the college's shared governance muscles have atrophied over the years, and it may be, I'm not expecting it's always going to be an easy process, but as President Grissom mentioned, we intend to make it the best process. And we are having, I know the staff is already having conversations with people at other colleges about how it works, how it doesn't work, what are the models, how can we move forward, and we're very excited. And we hope that the board is really excited, because I'm sure your shared governance muscles have atrophied over the last few years too. So we want to make sure that you guys are ready for lots of great ideas and wonderful things moving forward. That's mostly it, unless you have questions. The only other thing I wanted to say is we have so much wonderful stuff going on campus now, and invite you all to the Harvest Festival, which is Thursday, October 2nd, out in the Culinary Garden. And that will be the great opportunity to taste some of those tilapia and also all the harvest from our gardens. We're going to be pressing cider. There's going to be pumpkin carving with the culinary students in the courtyard. And I think it'll be a fantastic event for not only you, the board members, but all of you out in TV land who might want to come to October 2nd from 10 until 2. So thank you all so very much. And I think you made a very fine decision, and we look forward to working with Randy and with the board in the coming year.
Thank you, Zuby. Willie.
Okay. Well, in the last meetings, we approved the minutes of May 7 for the budget of the SGA. Also, we create two committees. We create the committee of the SGA Transparency Budget, and we create the Student Concerns Committee too, for attending all the necessities of the students and concerns. And we approved also in the last meeting the request on freeze of the funding of the SGA. And we endorsed the universal time hour too in our meetings. Also, I have to say my personal gratitude and congratulations to Mr. Randy Grinson and this board for working together for his support in all the initiatives of the students and take care about the concerns of the students. You know, Randy doing a great job, and I have to say that it's not easy these days for Santa Fe Community College, but he always being the side of the students, and I have to say thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All right, let's move on. To the consent agenda, I would actually like to pull off the policies, because there's a couple of areas I think we need to address, and if we could put those under removal from the consent agenda. Does anybody?
Do we want all of them removed?
Well, the question areas are in 1.6 and 1.8, so we could just pull those off if that's okay with everybody. I think in light of some things that have happened, we might want to revisit a couple of issues on those two policies.
Right. So I move that we, do I need to make a motion to pull
Yes,
those two
yeah,
things?
yes.
Okay. So I move that we pull policy 1-6 and 1-8 off the consent agenda and consider other items on consent.
Right. The minute, oh, and we have to table the minutes of Donna, August 14th? Mm-hmm. Okay. But August 25th's okay? No. Let's,
Do you want to, why don't you just table
we'll
all of
table,
them at this point, and then we'll.
okay. We're just going to, let's do the motion separately.
Okay.
So pull those off. Is there a second to that?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Then the minutes, we're trying to revise the format of our minutes. And so we've been working with Donna to do that, so we're kind of in the middle of it. If we could table those 4 sets of minutes till the next meeting when we'll have them in a different format.
Madam
Is there a
Chair,
motion for that?
I move that we table the minutes from August 5th through the 25th of August.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. So now we need a motion to approve what's left on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the items on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we pulled 2 items off of the consent agenda in the policy arena. And if we could go to policy 1-6. Okay, 1-6, where is that? So I wanted to bring up something that's come to our attention because of all the scrutiny that we've been under, and because there have been issues about the board not knowing about the expenditure of our plant funds for certain capital projects. And in this policy, we have that anything over 100,000 has to come to the board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It's C2.
Yeah. But what is missing is if we have a capital project on campus that's redoing something and maybe there's multiple contractors or something, then it may not come to that $100,000 mark, and then we don't know anything about it until we walk in and see, oh, well, here's something new on the campus that we didn't approve. So I would like to see us put something in about having, and let's discuss that, having all capital projects when we're using grant funds be brought to the board, or something that gives us notice that we are spending unrestricted capital funds on something that may or may not be on our plan. Do you all have thoughts, comments about how to do that?
Well, one way would be to limit the amount of the, that is required, that can be executed without approval.
And make it a lower amount.
A lower amount. Another way might be that we ask that all capital contracts come to the board for approval. I don't know, Henry, maybe you can talk a little bit about, could help us a little bit in terms of how, or Randy, what's a reasonable expectation? I mean, we don't want to get into the notion of approving every little thing that has to be done.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, maybe we ought to think about what is written in there for non-capital projects in our policies, and that is anything where the project is 100,000 or more, it would have to come.
But that's
to
my
the-
concern, is that 100,000 is perhaps too much in.
My biggest concern is that we do have emergency capital projects that might need to be done. And if we have to do the public notice and wait till there's a board meeting, it might not be done. I have no problem whatsoever, because I did bring it to you already, bringing to you a list of all capital projects that are in our budgets. And I would like, as long as we know those ahead of time, I'd like to have you see those and either approve. I think it would be great to have you approve those. We brought the spreadsheet together. But I am concerned, and it might be, I mean, we might even be able to go down as low as 50,000. But right now, on regular purchases, the president has authority. If it gets to 100,000 or more, I have to report it to you. If it's 300,000 or more, you have to approve it. And so that's true for regular operating expenses. I would think something similar for capital projects would make sense. I don't know if the $100,000 is the right number or not. We do have lots of projects that are in the $50,000 and $60,000 range, and they really end up being, and I guess we got to define a project.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they end up being sub-projects to larger projects in the way they're contracted out.
Well, should we just temporarily table this one and work it out and bring it back at the next meeting?
I think that would be a good
That'd
idea.
probably be better.
Sure, that's
Okay,
fine.
let's do, okay, so.
I think
I
that's,
moved to table.
1-6,
1-6.
temporarily table.
Well, table, you table.
Table.
you just bring
Is there
it
a
back
second?
second.
Any discussion?
I just,
Yes.
do we review now all of the capital?
That could be part of this policy, that all capital has to be, the list of all capital projects have to be approved by the board. And then that could solve it, except for emergencies.
Except
And
for
maybe we
emergencies.
make it, so that's, I think, what we could write.
I think
Yeah,
we should.
We can play with that.
Yeah.
And it could work to just say that we'd give the board notification if an emergency project does.
Yes.
At the
Right,
next board
right.
meeting,
Right.
does arise.
So I mean, like, did our electrical blackout cost us a bunch of money? Or-
Yeah, well,
I'm sure it must have been something.
Madam Chair, I think the challenge is going to be where we decide to pay for something from.
Yeah.
So if we end up paying for it out of plant funds, in
Operating,
theory,
yeah.
it would be a capital project.
Yeah.
As opposed to if it comes out of operating funds. So I think that's kind of the distinction there. And, but we've had things go out that cost $20,000, $30,000 just to get back up and running.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and we don't want to impede those emergencies. Okay, well, we'll figure that out and bring it back to the next
there's
board
a
meeting.
motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. And my other issue is when I was reviewing this again in policy 1-8, no, that's the board agenda. Oh, crap, is that not the right one? Well, where I couldn't find in all of these policies our policy for hiring the president. And I think somehow we managed to leave that out. Or do you know where it is? I couldn't find it. Other than,
Janet made no.
and for some reason I thought it was wasn't in 1-8 where it might have been, but that's the wrong policy.
I think it's in the policy that outlines the authorities of the board.
I think it is too, which is 1-.
Which is
The
the,
first ones.
The first one?
1-3, I think. Is it 1-3?
I think,
I don't see it there.
yeah.
I thought there was a policy on that, but it's clearly not here.
All right.
So we may need to look at that. We'll look at that.
Then, yeah, let's look at
Maybe
that.
1-3, and we're still working on that one.
Yeah, and 1-8, why did I start?
Maybe
it
it
was
is
there, the
1-3.
college president? No, that's the agenda, which actually we do need to work on, but.
We need to work on that one.
We do need to work on the agenda one, because we're working on the agenda, so let's keep that one, let's table that one too, to do further work on.
Madam Chair,
What are we doing with the agenda?
Okay, we're changing the agenda, but what we talked about was putting it in the policy so that it's clear for the future. We have some agenda issues from the Attorney General, and that's
Okay.
why I wanted to revisit that.
Madam Chair, I move that we table policy 1-8.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. And then we'll look for the president one.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
All right, now we're on to the agenda item approval or discussion of the financial report. We have discussed it in detail in our work session, but we might want to review.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, let me just give you a few highlights, and then if there's any questions. If you look on the first page of the financials, you'll see that we have just over $8.3 million in the bank on August 31st in various banks. Of that, 7.7 is for restricted funds, and we actually have a cash balance available for unrestricted purposes of $628,399. Go to that. Ken, go to the first one in the packet. Keep going. It's going to be after the title page. It's the ones that go landscape, the next ones. Next page. This is it.
This one?
Yes, this is. So that's the key thing. Once again, as I have been talking with the faculty and staff about, we have cash in the banks, but most of it is earmarked. Most of it is for GO bond projects, primarily to complete the solar array, which went live today, as I mentioned, and the higher education center. So those funds cannot be used for anything other than those purposes. And then we have $437,000 in debt service, which goes to pay off the bonds that we have sold in the past. That amount will grow in December and January when we get our next big payments from the county. But basically, we have, at the end of June, $628,000. We add to that to operate in September. We'll have our state appropriation that comes in. We have more tuition and revenue that comes in. We get a large amount of money this week from financial aid. We have a financial aid disbursement. We get about $4.5 million, which is scheduled to come in tomorrow. That gets dispersed to the students, I believe, on Friday. And we get to keep about $1.6 million of that for our share of tuition and fees and books that were charged at the bookstore. So cash to pay operating expenses in September is in pretty good shape at this time. Then I'd like to skip down to past the graphs, Ken, and go to the one that's going to be called Summary of Revenues and Expenditures. That's it. As of August 31st, we're 17% through the year, so we have a 17% year-to-date number at the top. You'll see over on the right-hand side, our revenues are right on target. We've brought in about 17% of our revenues. If you go down the line looking at expenditures, we've expended about 18% of our expenditures for the year. The reason plant operations and maintenance and institutional support are above 17% is primarily because we pay for our insurance, our general liability, and our property insurance up front. And we've decided, rather than allocating that each month, even though it covers the year, we've just expensed it for the whole year at the beginning of the month. So from a revenue and expense standpoint, this is on target, and this is based upon the revised budget that was approved by the board in August, which included all the cuts from the financial stability plan. And I think that's the highlights, unless you've got questions on any of the other areas. We discussed most of the other areas in the work session earlier.
I would like some, at the next board meeting, discussion on the kids' campus and the fact that the subsidy is so high right now.
We'll do that. We also may have an update from Mary Ann Shaning and the Brindle Foundation, who are funding work on a business plan, and we had talked to them potentially about presenting at the October board meeting, so we'll check into that.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a quick comment, a lot of conversation, I've had a lot of conversation not only with people from the community, but people from the campus who are concerned about the budget and the status of the budget. And I think what we've committed to the community is that we do regular check-ins and provide information, and this is an important part of that. So what we're looking at is, 17% of our revenues and our expenditures, if we're on track with staying in the terms of this budget this year, which I know is important to everybody and is a big management challenge for the college moving forward, that we are on track. We have a few anomalies, and I think President Grissom has addressed those anomalies and assured us that those will smooth out over the next month, and if they don't, we can go back and revisit those things as well. But again, our challenge this year is going to be to make sure that we don't exceed in any one of those categories the expenditures that we've set forward in the stability plan.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Our finance committee is also meeting before meetings, and we have our work session where we're going through the financials. We're still cleaning up some problems from the past, and I hope that we've got most of those fixed so that we can be really clear about moving forward. And I appreciate all the work that our finance staff, our small finance staff, seem to be doing, and the hours that you are putting in. Thank you so much, and thank you, President Grissom. Okay, can we have a motion to accept the financial report?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is the resolution to support the dental therapist bill. Is Jenny here?
Jenny is not. She is out of town at a nursing accreditation.
Okay, but we have the experts here from Health Action. Hi, Pamela.
Good evening.
Thank you for waiting.
Oh, no problem. Good evening. My name is Pamela Blackwell, and I am the project director for Dental Health Access for Health Action New Mexico. I have to say it's a real pleasure to be here tonight as a over sixth-generation New Mexican, and having grown up in Santa Fe. It's really nice to be here and see how this school has grown since I was young, and be here to present an opportunity for further growth for your school and for your community. Today we'd like to present to you dental therapists, and if you don't mind, I do have a video that I think would get us on the same page. It's 8 minutes, and then I can kind of bring you up to speed on where we are with meeting with many of your staff here at the school.
Is it loaded?
You got it? It is.
It's very hard. It's very hard. I wish we could afford to go to the dentist like everybody else.
It is a major crisis. It's impacting our communities in a very negative and adverse way.
What we have now does not work.
The problem of oral health in the state is much more serious than most people understand or are aware of, I think.
There are very few dentists in New Mexico. Roughly half to 2/3 of the population of the state has very limited access to oral health care.
The fact that we don't have enough dental services and at this point have no hope of actually attaining those needed services in the foreseeable future means that we have a terrible crisis in the state. Something that's interesting is that the scientific literature has now clearly shown that chronic gingivitis and tooth infection has a great deal to do with coronary artery disease, diseases of the pancreas, bladder, prostate. It's quite clear that having chronic bad mouth and bad teeth totally affects other parts of your body and health.
I have a tooth cracked in half and the bottom part of a molar has fallen off. The infection has traveled up into my upper jaw and the infection is actually behind my eardrum. I can't hear anything but ringing out of it. But honestly, I don't have $200. Not for that. It is overwhelming. And I don't see a way out. I honestly don't.
People suffer terribly, go without, or often end up in the emergency department just to get a little bit of antibiotic and some pain medicine.
Patients come in with complaints of months of this pain that sort of they've been dealing with, and then they're coming in now clearly looking very ill, serious infections that go much, much deeper than their gum line and their teeth line, and that require surgery, an emergency surgery, and very costly and very painful and very long therapy.
That's not the way to manage health in any population. The way to do that is, again, prevention and education and offering people important services earlier in the game than just waiting for an emergency.
We know one solution that works, and that's dental health aid therapists. Alaska has shown that. The solution is to identify people from the communities, get them trained, and have them provide basic dentistry to the people they grew up with in their own communities. We know that works.
I was very skeptical on how anybody could have 2 years of training out of high school and be a qualified dental therapist. I was asked if I would be interested in going to Alaska to learn about it. And I accepted that and did that.
When people come up, they see our program, they see what we're doing with our training. They see the therapists working in the communities, they talk to the patients, they learn about it, and their minds change. And they begin to see that, you know, maybe this isn't such a big scary thing after all. Maybe this isn't a bad idea.
They were basically practicing perfect textbook dentistry. And of course the textbooks are the same textbooks that are used in dental school. And for the training procedures, the thing is, they just aren't trained in as many procedures as a dentist. But what they do is absolutely superb.
When I first heard about the dental therapy program, some of the questions I had was the training and education.
Are we on the web?
No, it's
It worked earlier.
Up to Alaska, I was able to look at that, look at the curriculum.
Let's see.
Training, and I was very satisfied.
Dental therapists provide basic dental services. They'll take the drill, and they'll drill out the decay, and they'll fill it. They can do routine extractions, take out teeth that are infected. They can also provide preventive services, education, all of those kind of things are part of what a dental therapist does.
The treatment that I saw rendered was absolutely perfection. I would have no hesitation in
Well, why don't you all just...
Why don't I start?
Yeah, why don't you just...
Okay. Thank you very much. I apologize for the technical difficulties there. That last comment was going to be made by Dr. Howard Rhodes, who's a dentist here in New Mexico, now practicing in Artesia. And his having seen the Alaska Dental Therapist Program, he said he would have no problem having a dental therapist provide a restoration or basically cavity filling in his own mouth. So we've had the opportunity to have many people in New Mexico go and take a look at the Alaska. So as you can see, dental therapists are mid-level dental providers. They can do, under our model, they can do everything a hygienist can do, as well as additional services that mean increasing access to care. So they work under the general supervision of off-site dentists, just like our physician assistants, our nurse practitioners do here in our state. And they also generate revenue, even when they're serving underserved populations. The fact is that in New Mexico, all 33 of our counties are all or in part dental provider shortage areas. We are 39th worst in the number of dentists per 1,000 people. And unfortunately, the status quo of trying to get more dentists just is not working. We need at least 155 to 400 more dentists to meet the needs of our state. So that's where mid-level dental providers, dental therapists would come in to do that. This is really a career and a job opportunity as well. The way these students are chosen, I think, is probably very similar to the model that you all have here for your programs, is they are selected by the community, nominated to go to dental therapy education programs. So therein you create that tie with that community. We have the chance to have homegrown providers. That's a very rare opportunity here in New Mexico. Our model has taken both Alaska's excellent model that you were learning about there, as well as Minnesota's model and models around the world. Ours is a hygiene inclusive model. So that means that to be a dental therapist under our proposed legislation, you would either go to be a registered dental hygienist, and you would go to another year of schooling to become a dental therapist, or you could go to a program that has both hygiene and therapy included in that. That model in particular, both models are very important. The hygienist pathway model is very important for all those hygienists. Quite frankly, we're graduating 80 hygienists a year in New Mexico. These hygienists cannot find jobs. They are very eager to go to another year of schooling so that they can not only provide greater access to care, but they have a career pathway. So that's using a current workforce that we have. The other more, 3-year option, again, this is associates level, provides communities like Clayton, who have not had a dentist in 12 years, who do not have a hygienist anywhere nearby, the opportunity to send someone from their community to get all of that experience and training so they can then return to their community. We have the American Association of Public Health Dentistry has a curriculum that we can pull from. So this is really not starting from scratch. This is really using the resources we have available. We had a really great opportunity to talk with the director of your dental assisting program and Jenny Landon as well, and also to tour your school and the adjoining clinic as well. That's what dental therapy is about, is providing education and then training and clinical opportunity right there in communities that do have that need. So we would see Santa Fe Community College as an excellent place to house a dental therapist program. With dental therapists, you'd be meeting the need to access to quality care and creating very livable wage jobs. We also have the opportunity, another school we're working with is SIPI, the Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute. They are the furthest on board with interest in moving forward on this. The Kellogg Foundation, which grants, which provides the grant funding for us at Health Action to do this work, is looking to provide them with planning and development funding for doing a self-study. SIPI's academic program director herself is very interested in perhaps partnering, if the board would be amenable to this, partnering with Santa Fe Community College and creating a same curriculum and creating some efficiencies, whether it's in faculty or clinical opportunities as well. Now, our legislation has not passed yet, okay, but we're doing our homework. And the reason we're coming to the schools now is because people need care yesterday. You know, we've had 5 years of bringing this to the legislature, and we could have had dental therapists already out there. So we want schools in New Mexico to be ready, and we want their input now. Certainly our legislation is richer and more comprehensive and fits New Mexico better because of the input that we've had from academic and other advisors as well. So let's see, a couple other points, and then I'll yield to my partners here. Alaska, Minnesota, and Minnesota have dental therapists. Maine just passed their law, so we have yet to see graduates from their program. 50 other countries around the world as well, so this is not new. This is innovative and tested. And not one study questions the quality of care that dental therapists provide. They go head to head with their scope of practice with dentists, and they meet that. And so that's what we want. We want quality, access, affordable care for all New Mexico communities. And we're really excited about this opportunity to do this. And we have legislation again this year, bipartisan support. Senator Benny Shendo from Jemez Pueblo, and then Representative Dennis Roche from Clayton, Union County, Texaco area. And we're going to go at this again. We got on the governor's call last year and got to the House floor in a 30-day session. So we have some good momentum with this, and we would love for Santa Fe Community College to be a part of this solution. And with that, if you don't mind, I'd like to yield to Dr. Davis Gant, and then also to Ruth Williams, who is a community member here in Santa Fe, but also an advocate for children through YDI Elevate.
Please.
First of all, I would agree with Dr. Rhodes on this one. After coming back from Anchorage, I would have no hesitation to have a dental therapist do procedures on me. First of all, have any of you seen your dental clinic, the dental lab? You have?
Oh, yes.
You have?
Yeah, all of us have.
All of you?
Yeah, we toured the campus.
It's really pretty incredible.
Yes.
As you probably know, you should be very, very proud of what you have here. Jenny and Amna have done a fantastic job. Last year, all of the graduates had jobs within a couple of weeks. So the program is really, really quite incredible. I would really like to see a school started here. I think things are going to roll in the future. I'm from New Mexico, and we're always 47th, 48th, 49th, 50th on the list of the worst, as you can say. I'd like to be the fourth and fifth on board in introducing this program. It is much, much needed. I also not only teach here Fridays, but I'm with several of my former hygienists. We do go out into the rural areas and clinics, and the need is out there. And you guys have just a perfect situation for bringing this school. So,
Thank you.
I am Ruth Williams, and I have lived in Santa Fe for over 20 years. And I work in Albuquerque, and I'm up there a couple days a week as well with Youth Development Inc. And I'm public policy director for the Elevate Community Schools Initiative. In our community schools in Albuquerque, we do have school baseball centers. So we're very devoted to making sure that we're removing barriers to learning, and barriers can be mental issues with children. 37% of New Mexico's third graders have untreated dental decay. As a person who came from a home of poverty, I can tell you that a child such as myself who goes untreated becomes an adult with issues as well. And it also can impact your interest in learning in such great ways. You know, to be able to have a therapist, we believe, would be an equalizer in helping the child to be and learn equal to someone who has proper dental care. So I just wanted to bring you that message that certainly impacts learning in our state, and that's what you're about. So I hope that you would endorse this resolution and the
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation, Pamela?
Yes. And
okay.
Usually I'm used to answering many questions about this, so so I welcome any questions that you all have.
Chris.
So what is the difference between dental hygienist, dental assistant, and dental therapist, and what is the difference in length of the program? And probably the most important question, do we have the facilities to be able to handle a dental therapist program?
I deeply believe you do.
Okay.
Because
So,
I'm in the clinic and in the lab, it is really impressive.
so the length of time, how long do they take?
Well, depending on the program that you as a school choose, or you could do both. It would be if you enrolled a registered dental hygienist, so licensed hygienists, it would be 1 year, so that's the pathway, or it'd be 3 years, and this is all post-high school. And the students that you have are full-fledged adults. That's who is doing dental therapy in the U.S. and around the world. Their average age is about 34. They've started families, and they want a pathway and a career opportunity and a better way to support their families as well. So as far as who all, and this is a very important question, who all is in the dental team already, within your packets I have kind of an infographic that might help with that. Towards the bottom of, this is really a career ladder. Towards the bottom you have dental assistants. One of the reasons your school is ideal for this as well is a dental assisting chair is already situated exactly for a dentist. So the infrastructure is there. Whereas actually if it was just a hygienist school in a hygienist chair, you wouldn't have all of the technology you need. So that's a very important part. You also have community dental health coordinators. There's really only one who's licensed to do that. That's a coordinator of care. Prevention education, which is important, but they cannot treat. Above those two folks are dental hygienists. They can clean your teeth, they can do scaling and root planing, very important services. The limitation they have is that they have to be more direct supervision, so they have to be with a dentist to practice. If we don't have enough dentists, these hygienists cannot get out there, hence the reason why they want to become dental therapists. Then above you have the dental therapist, and so that encompasses all of prevention and education certainly, but also the actual treatment, and that's also where your revenue is generated also for a financially viable practice. They are still under the head of the dentist. The dentist is absolutely the head of the dental team. They have to be competent, a dentist has to be competent in 500 competencies, whereas a dental therapist has to be competent in 90. So a dental therapist is not replacing a dentist. They're actually really expanding their reach. And then the dentist now can work more at his or her, the full extent of their scope as well. Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
It's always a long answer with me sometimes. So,
Yes.
okay.
Chris, done? Yeah. Okay, Martha?
So where is the opposition? Where does the legislation get boggled down?
We have very strong opposition, and it is unfortunate. The opposition, the only opposition, is the New Mexico Dental Association. We have a coalition of over 50 supporters, Native American communities all across the state, non-Native communities, schools, public health professionals. And that being said, obviously not all dentists are opposed to this. We do have a solid group of dentists who would love to have a dental therapist in their own practice. The opposition, it's very much like the opposition that medicine had against nurse practitioners and physician assistants. I guess you could call it turf. People sometimes don't like change or feeling a lack of control. However, that being said, the facts are that dental therapists provide high quality care, and they can generate revenue for dentists for their practices. In fact, the Minnesota example, they have a children's dental services. It's a safety net clinic that just serves Medicaid children. They are actually paying the tuition for dental therapists to go to school in return for them to practice because they're generating enough revenue and increasing access and productivity in their safety net clinic, which, you know, they're always trying to make ends meet. So they're actually paying tuition. That's unheard of. And as far as return on investment, the dental therapist in Alaska, within 12 to 18 months of employment, they're already recouping that investment in their education.
So in New Mexico, how many legislators do you have sponsoring your legislation?
We have 2 legislators, one on the Senate side, bipartisan, Senator Benny Shendo from Jemez Pueblo, a Democrat, and Representative Dennis Roche from the northeastern part of our state, definitely a Republican. And he's been with us the longest. Senator Shendo joined us last year. His father was a physician assistant. For him, it is a community constituent issue. He himself has to travel to get dental care. And the same goes for Senator Shendo. Sadly, the statistics in oral health for our Native American communities are even worse. Santo Domingo Pueblo, 70% of their adults have untreated dental decay. 70%. So there's a need, and we are very excited about the bipartisan support, bipartisan and bicameral support that we have.
So are you working to get more legislators to sponsor your bill?
Absolutely. Well, sponsorship is important, but certainly getting their commitment and support. I think that is why the Legislative Health and Human Services Committee, the interim committee, for the 3rd year in a row has endorsed our legislation, and that committee is comprised of both senators and House members. We have been through the House side more times, so their Health, Government, and Indian Affairs Committee has supported us unanimously for 2 years, and we got through on a 12-4 vote of support by the House Judiciary Committee. There are still some really tough members. The opposition is very tough. They have a great inside game, and they have opportunity to make contributions that we as a nonprofit can't and obviously won't do. So it really comes from the grassroots.
If I could comment on that, I've been following this legislation for a number of years because it is similar to the battles that I've engaged in with advanced practice nurses and physicians. And in New Mexico, we have been successful in having advanced practice nurses, nurse midwives have independent practice. And I have seen over the years the support build. And I think with like many pieces of legislation, this is one that eventually will pass, but it's going to take a while because you have to build more and more support. You have to educate more and more legislators, but eventually I do believe it'll pass. And I think it is a great opportunity for Santa Fe Community College to be one of the first to provide this education. However, we will need some seed money to make it happen. But
Madam Chair.
yes.
Thank you. As I was looking at your statewide coalition and endorsers, it's very impressive.
Thank you.
I know many of them, and I just hard to understand why we have not been able to push that legislation through, given the number, even the number of dentists that get into dental school in the state of New Mexico. It's horrendous. And then you go to Chamao, you go to Tierra Maria, you go to Ojo Caliente, all those places where there's large populations of underserved children and adults. I just think it's important that Santa Fe Community College plays a role in trying to do what we can, not only to endorse it, but to at least actively support it in the legislature. I think it's a very important. Dental hygiene is important to the whole body as well. It's not just, but there are a lot of other diseases that certainly can come from not having a healthy oral exams and treatment. So I commend you for it. I think it's important that you continue to seek other legislators, like from rural areas. Senator Martinez from Rio Arriba County and so many others. If you'd sit down with them, and they're very, very supportive of our clinics in the northern part of the state.
I want to add, though, on the rural question, I really thought it was more of a rural issue, and we've had programs down in the southern part of the state, particularly in Gadsden. We had programs in Gadsden Middle School. But we have a school in the International District of Albuquerque, Wilson Middle School, and that's in a dental shortage area, right there in the area there of Albuquerque. And today, Pamela and I have been talking about dental therapists for most of the day today. But we were at another presentation, and we are getting supported in Wilson by a group called Community Dental Services. And what they're doing is helping us find dental homes for our students. We have a dental chair, but we can't fill it. We don't have a dentist there because of the shortage. But the person who's with that group said today that she sees 150 emergency cases every week. And she would hire a dental therapist for our school, Wilson Middle School, if she could. And then the provider, she says, would create access to so many people and increase access. So there's a rural perspective, and I certainly know about that living in Santa Fe. And I haven't been here for the time I have, but being in Albuquerque, I just want you to know that right there in the city, it's a dental shortage area.
Mr. President?
Madam Chair, I've talked with Margaret, and I both met with Jenny Landon and with Amna about this. We're very excited about this opportunity for the college. We think that the quickest thing for us to do, if this was something that we could trade for, because if the legislation has to pass, would be to almost like our alternative licensure program, where we have people who already have a bachelor's degree come back and get their license to go to teach, that we would bring back the dental hygienist to come back and get one extra year of training to get them a better job than they currently have. And that is one of the reasons we haven't gone to a dental hygienist program, is because there is a glut on the market, really, and they aren't getting placed. So that's why we stayed with our dental assisting program. But I think we'd also be very interested in having the 3-year program potentially that would go all the way through. But in the short term, we think there would be a great demand for bringing licensed dental hygienists back to get that one additional year of training. And we do think we pretty much have the facilities we need. We would need some help with some instructors, probably.
As I'd like to comment on kind of the faculty, but also the seed money. There are certainly opportunities federally, actually through Senator Bingaman. He placed funding in the Affordable Care Act for 15 $4 million grants for the training and education of dental therapists. So there is that. There are certainly, through Kellogg and others, opportunities for grant funding that way. And I do get calls and emails from faculty from around the country, actually, thinking that we already have dental therapists and they want to come be faculty. And I say, okay, hold on, let me put you in my contacts. Let me get back to you once we do. So I'm not saying none of those are guarantees by any means, but they are opportunities, and I think they are things that can be worked through.
Okay, can I have a motion for this resolution?
I move we approve the resolution for a dental therapist program.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for waiting and presenting to us.
Thank you so much. We very much look forward to working with you all.
And we will ask our lobbyist, Virginia V. Hill, who is in the audience, to assist you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.